Everyone. Thanks for your patience with our few technical difficulties. I want to welcome you to the FTD Virtual Design Show titled Sympathy in Bloom, Integrating American Floral Trends 2025 to 2026, featuring FTD Education Consultant Randy Wooten AIFD. As a quick housekeeping note, Randy will be taking questions throughout the show. So if you have a question, please type it in that question box on your control panel. All right, let's get started. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for everybody for joining me. And I would like to say before we get started, thank you for your patience. I'm not a tech person, so we had a little bit of a difficulty today, but we're going to make the best of it. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Janet, for giving me the opportunity to share. So I'm looking forward to this. This has been very interesting to me in preparing for this. The trends is one thing that over the years I have paid attention to. But this year I've been so busy I haven't been able to focus on it until we were preparing for this particular program. And one thing I found when going through the trends for the 25-26 year, they are spot on. I will tell you that. There was one that was kind of a surprise to me, but I loved it, and we're going to talk about that shortly. But for the most part, they are all spot on when it comes to what I'm seeing as a wholesaler. Many of you may not know, but I was a retailer for 21 years, and now I'm in the wholesale division for 3 now. And these trends are pretty much on spot. So as Janet said, as we move through, we're going to cover about 4 of those today due to time restraint. But throughout each segment, if you have a question, type it in. She's going to interrupt me, and we're going to address them as we go. And then at the end, we will open the floor up for other questions or comments. Now, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about in your area, if any of these trends are on the point for you in your area. We're going to get started with the first one, and it has to do with embrace, the fire element. In reading this, I was very excited about it because I absolutely love color, and for this one, for me, it's very vibrant, and it plays off a little bit of the tangerine, which you can also play off of the peach and the green with a little bit of soft yellow. And if you wanted to add a contrasting color in there, they're suggesting to do some blue with it. Now, in the design that we did today, I chose to stay away from the blue and focus on the different shades of the tangerine, a little bit of the yellow, and heavy on the green. And being this segment is for sympathy, we sometimes get in a rut with our color schemes, especially if the customer is not specific and they leave it up to you. We go to the old standards, our ones that we rely on a lot of times, your reds, your whites, your pinks. For me, I've always been invested in color. Color is a huge part of my design and has been for years. And for me, I love monochromatic, and I stretch it. And this particular piece here plays into that somewhat. And we're going to talk about the first one is a spray. And I'm going to bring it out. And I know our camera, you can see here. Absolutely love this. We have the Aromaris playing off that orange and a little bit of the yellow. It has a little bit of combination of both there. And you can see that Aromaris is a strong line going from one corner to the other. And then we have the pale cream yellow stock paired with this beautiful Esmeralda lily. And I tried to find the name of it earlier today to share with you. And I can, if you're interested in it, message me after the program and I will find that out. I couldn't get a hold of my contact today. But they're calling it a peach oriental. And what it is a pale yellow lily. And inside, very similar to the way the stargazer or starfighter lily has that little bit of color radiating out of it, and it's a pinky peach color. It's not a true peach lily, but they're labeling it as peach. And I paired it with the peach cremone or disbud, which is called Dorothy, and it's from Esmeralda as well, with the Tortola rose, which The farm classifies this as a peach rose, but you can clearly see that it's more of a tangerine to an orange color. The colors work really well together. And then you have your contrasting greens. I have the tile leaves in the dark green, and then we have the calathea leaves that has the variegation in it and the stripe, which breaks up all that green color. One thing you'll notice throughout my work, I love to do groupings and clustering of light product. And you can, by doing so, you see the beauty of each individual flower. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing what we call a garden mix, where everything is just spread out throughout the whole composition. But if the customer doesn't request it, try using some grouping and clustering if you're not already, because you see the beauty of that individual flower. Sometimes when you're doing an arrangement where all the different flowers are spread out throughout the whole composition, you kind of lose it and you don't see it because your eye is constantly bouncing from one to the next. By grouping it together, you see the beauty of that flower. And you can see how I have the strong line going on with the aromaris. And then with the roses, I have a strong focal and line there with those disc buds tucked down in. That disc bud brings a lot of texture to it. So this would be in the fire element, the embrace. Now, one thing that I find very, very interesting is that incorporating these trends into your sympathy work makes your sympathy work become very trendy, because we're seeing brides, especially in event work, they're very color specific now, and there's certain color palettes that are very popular with a certain age group or a generation. And so if you're incorporating what they love as far as colors are concerned into your sympathy work, then you're going to gain more attention with that specific target group. So another thing I wanted to say before we move on this, we're seeing probably for the last 6 or 7 months, we've had this product called Rumex. And in South Georgia, it grows in the ditch. And we call it dock, or sometimes in the South, we call it stuff like that, rhodesidia. But now they're going it for mass production. And it's this textured green, absolutely love it. And it has a lot of movement to it. You can see it there moving with my hand. And it just has that greenery popping out of that spray. So do we have any questions on that one, Janet?
No questions right now, but I would like to let everybody know, if you check out the handout section, I've dropped in PDFs from each of the 5 trends, so it shows, it's just a PDF, individual one by trend with the color swatches. So as you're mentioning the colors for Embrace, it's in there and they can see those different colors. It's a good resource for them.
It is a great resource, because I was sharing with some of the team members here earlier before we went live that in that brochure, it lists a group of colors that would fall into that palette. And then they give you examples, pictures. And a lot of times they give you not only those colors all combined in one composition, but they also show variations of where 2 of those colors are paired, or just one color monochromatic. So you don't have to just strictly take all those colors that are in that trend and combine them all together. You can break it up and pick and choose, and it still fall within that trend. Okay.
Perfect. All right. And we do have another question.
Okay.
Or we have a question from Daniel. He wants to know, what's your approach with sympathy clients and presenting trends?
Well, the thing of it is for us in South Georgia, when I was in retail and I dealt with the customers on sympathy work, we were hugely custom based, meaning when that family came in or the individual was on the phone, we tried to dive into a conversation with them about, tell me about the individual that we're sending this to. You know, tell me about their personality. Tell me, did they have a hobby or a like? And based on that, then we move into the direction of a theme, if you will, as in regards to what style of arrangement or composition we would offer them. And then we lead into color. And for us, the ones that we're showcasing the trends for this year, any of these would work. And as we progress through, you're going to see A lot of this color trend you're probably already doing in your everyday work. So why would we not allow that to transcend over into our sympathy work? A great example is I've had over the years several people who are event people and only do weddings. And they'll reach out to me by either text or phone and they'll say, Randy, I've got a request to do a sympathy piece. I've never done sympathy work before. I don't know where to begin. And I try to relate it very simply to them. If you're doing any design that you do for a wedding or event, is the same design, it's just for a different occasion. Like an urn, an altarpiece, all of those can be just transferred over into a funeral piece. Now, an easel piece is a little bit different. The mechanics is a little bit different, but overall, your basic core of what you're doing is it transcends all over, no matter what the event is. So, especially when it comes to color, I sell color all the time. Now, if a family doesn't care, then I kind of guide them into that avenue as to what to use. I hope that helps you.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh, we have another one.
Okay.
Is that Aramaris seasonal?
Yes, it is for me now. We've been able to get it probably for the last couple months. In futures, for me, looking in futures, I don't see it past the next 2 weeks. So I don't know if it's on its way out. We had some about 3 weeks ago that was over 6 feet tall. It was crazy, really crazy, but beautiful. I mean, it was like this big around. Absolutely gorgeous. People are scared of it sometimes locally here because of the size of it. And I tell them, listen, just because it's 6 feet tall doesn't mean you have to use it 6 feet. Of course, we want to maximize it, but you can see how in this particular spray, how I did cut that stem down to make it fit what I was doing here. So love Aramaris.
Great. And last thing, just to let everybody know too, in the chat, I dropped the link for the American Floral Trends website that will have more information, everything that you read, Randy, preparing for this. And so it's got a lot of great information about the trends.
Good deal. And I encourage you to take advantage of that. The next trend is called Whisper, which is the air element, which means lightness. And when they're talking about lightness, they're talking twofold, in my opinion. I interpreted it that way. Lightness is in visual, color is very light, and then also in the sense of the whole mood of the arrangement is very light, very soft, very muted tones per se. And the colors there is like ivory, blush, lavender, and then a contrast color they're saying to that would be a pale yellow. So one of the things that I chose to do is in this vessel we have here on my table, okay? Many times people will ask me about different types of vessels or containers to use for sympathy work, because we're seeing a trend now where there's a lot of cremations and you're having a lot of regular water-based designs in glass or ceramic. So we're always trying to look for something different and creative and unique. And immediately when I brought this container in, they're like, well, what are you going to put in that? The opening is so small. How are you going to design in that? And it's so deep, you're going to have some stems. So for me, I took and made a hand-tied bouquet that's going to be a drop-in, okay? And I used those muted tones. I used this beautiful delphinium. If you're not getting delphinium like this, you need to contact your wholesaler. Esmeralda, to me, has some of the best white delphinium out there. It comes in every week consistently, beautiful, lush. And I use that delphinium here in the center like a phoenix rising. There again, I grouped it together. And then around the base of it, I created this soft white Queen Anne's lace. And then we have these roses. They're called Ali, A-L-I. They're very fragrant. And you know, anytime as a designer you get a rose in that's fragrant, everybody's, you know, got their nose down to it because it smells really, really good. And I don't know how to describe this color. It's very unique and different. It almost has a light, dusty lavender hint to it. And then at other times it has this blush, faint, dusty pink to it, then it also could carry into the tone of like a quicksand. So it was very interesting, but yet in that light, muted tone. And then to top it off, I used some Dusty Miller, that soft, dusty green color. And one of the things that's been very popular in our area is the Aussie umbrella fern. It's hugely popular. We sell tons of it every week. But I've created this hand-tied bouquet that will go into the vessel. And that collar that we created is going to cause that to just rest right there. Can you see that? Tilt it back for me just a little bit. There we go. And then the whole point of this is to create interest, but you've also been able to use an unusual vessel, not your typically expected vessel. So it could be more trendy. We're talking about trends here. We're talking about color, but we can also translate that into the vessel. And you can see the vessel that I chose is in these muted tones. We have this like off-white down to like a bone color, and that doesn't take away from the composition. It's very harmonious. When we're creating a design, we want everything to have unity and be in harmony. And this vessel does that with this arrangement. So I hope you like that. Now, playing off of that same air element, we have taken and I've created another arrangement. We'll bring that here. Using some of the same product, but you remember I told you that in the brochure, it shows all the colors together combined, and then it also shows how you can take those colors out of that color palette and create different variations of that. This particular design took them all into consideration and into one composition, where the one we just talked about was in the more muted, definitely without the lavender and without the pale yellow. Here again, we've taken this beautiful vessel. Pay attention to your containers, folks, because details. So many times I see people where they're in a rush or they're on autopilot, they just grab what's available and go. Put some thought into it. Remember, there must be harmony. There must be unity within that composition. And playing off this same color palette in this container mimics the color palette in this as well. And it all plays into the trend. We did this horizontal design. There again, using this beautiful white delphinium. And we grouped it to make it stronger, more bold, so you can see it. The rose we were just talking about, Allie, we did a strong grouping that came from one side and bled over throughout the arrangement to the other side. The Aramaris here was in the soft yellow. And these Aramaris, where in the spray are more straight and pointy, this variety, the ends were real curly and gnarly, and I love that. So we had a grouping here and a grouping there to just break up and add a little bit more vibrant to the arrangement. And then we used the lavender Lysianthus to come up out of those roses, which creates more depth down in. And remember the Aussie umbrella fern that we used here? We took it and broke it into little shoots and pieces and had it nestled coming out of the roses, which created another point of interest. And I'll turn that over so you can see that. And then, of course, we wanted to create a little bit of movement with the curly willow coming up, and then down here it's coming up again, which keeps that line coming back to our center. A line is the path that your eye takes throughout the design, so we want to keep that line coming up and bouncing back. We don't want the line going out with nothing to come back. So being the horizontal line went out this way, I wanted to create another line that kind of kept your eye back in the center. Does that make sense? So here we have air. What do you think? Any questions on that one?
No questions. I love them. And I love, these are just, they're gorgeous. They feel like such a celebration for that loved one.
This would be perfect for a memorial because we could place and create this table, and the urn could be sitting in between the two, and would just be a beautiful collection here. Could be a photograph that's set there. But I love how you've got the horizontal and then you have the vertical all in the same collection. And I think it works really well. So that is air, folks.
Gorgeous. And we do have a comment from Lydia. She said it's very beautiful. She's from the UK, and this is more akin to the shape that they would use for a coffin spray, so she can see how to scale up for that.
What was her question?
Not a question. She was just commenting that you're giving her some great ideas on how to scale up for what they would do.
Absolutely. That horizontal piece that we just showed could be translated into a piece for the casket. Absolutely. There again, the groupings, I know I repeat myself, and if you've ever seen a program that I've done before, I talk about that a lot of times. And one of the reasons why I talk about it so heavily is because when I'm out on the road, or when a lot of times people share their work with me almost weekly, and when they do, everything that I see, and even in our local area, with some exceptions, most people do the garden mix. Everything is just polka dotted, and I'm not saying that's wrong, and I'm not saying that if that's what the customer wants or if that's your style, by all means do you. But the point of me showing groupings and showing an alternative to that is because we always want to set ourselves apart. We don't want our work looking like the shop down the street. One of the biggest compliments that we used to get as a retail shop in regards to Sympathy work was they would say, Randy, from across the room, I could tell which pieces came from your shop. I didn't have to walk up to it, read the card, anything. I could tell from across the room. And that's the reason why I'm showcasing groupings and talking about color so closely, because when I had my retail shop, and no disrespect to anybody else, because you do you, but for me, I was the only one that seemed to pay close attention to color. I focused heavily on color. And Dawson and Kara, who purchased Dolores's, they have continued with that tradition and play close attention, and it sets them apart. And so if you see me repeating stuff like that, that's the reason. I'm trying to drive home the point. We want to stand out and be different, okay? All right, the next
we do
one.
Have a question. We do have a question from Nancy. She wants to know where you look for your containers.
Well, that's a good question, because there's tons of supplies out there. There's UCI has beautiful, cool containers. For me being on the East Coast, sometimes I would have to pick and choose because of shipping purposes, because they're on the West Coast, we're on the East Coast. So you have to look into that. Accent Decor has wonderful containers. I would say that if you go to market, whether it's Atlanta, Dallas, take some time. There's vendors out there. You just got to shop for them. You know, it's a hard thing to do. And the other thing is finding them in the price point that's comfortable, that meets your pricing and your customer base. Sometimes containers play a big part of the budget for an arrangement, okay? And I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna move on. When you do put value and money on a container, please don't cover it up. You know that arrangement we just did, the horizontal, you could see that container. There was very little draping over one side, but the rest of the arrangement, you could see that container. You want to showcase that, because I had a customer one time come in and said, Randy, I don't feel like I got my money's worth on that arrangement. And I started by saying, okay, well, the container itself was $25. And they're like, what? I didn't pay any attention to the container. So some consumers don't put value on a container. Some do. But if you're going to put that much money in a container, please let it show so the consumer can see it. And that helps enhance the design. When you cover it up, you're just covering up money. It's just like a lot of times people design heavy on the green side, using greenery, very heavy. consumers don't put no value on greenery unless it's some kind of specialty leaf or something that's really going to stand out and be a focal. But a lot of times these eucalyptuses that we use, and I love eucalyptus, but we load things up with eucalyptus and they're rather pricey and it eats into your budget. So when you're doing sympathy work, you want to make sure that if you're the big ticketed items in that arrangement is your focal, okay? All right, we're going to move on to celestial, which means space, like outer space. And this one was cool. And this is one that I feel is kind of spot on because of two colors here. I hope you can see that. With celestial, you're talking about deep purples, dark blues, and then you can also incorporate metallics like black, silver, and gold. And I didn't have any black, silver, or gold. I would love to have been able to find a container that would have been in either one of those metallics to really amplify this trend. But I will say this, we are seeing a lot of purples and lavenders that are coming out in daily work and sympathy work. I was just talking with my old shop today, and they were saying that they've had recently a lot of casket sprays and funeral works that's requesting lavender. It's hugely popular for us as a wholesaler, so much so that we have upped our numbers on inventory for that. And then, of course, we all know blue. Anything with blue is really, really popular. So to see this as a trend, merging these two colors together is no surprise to me, and I absolutely loved it. So if you can see this design, we have the blue delphinium. There again, I'm going to reinforce the grouping element. We have this beautiful grouping of dark blue delphinium, another grouping here. We have another grouping off each end with the deep, the purple stock grouped in two different areas. And then right through the middle, we kept things a little bit lower so your eye can move in between, creating a lot of depth, a lot of texture. We have the deep purple spider mum or Fuji mum. And then we have the deep purple roses nestled down in. And we have a little bit of blue thistle to carry the blue all the way through the design. And then there again, having some of that purple. Before we used the lavender lisianthus, here we're using the purple lisianthus coming out, creating more depth at different levels, adding a little bit of that pop of green on the tips. But I wish you were here where you could see up close and deep down in. There's a lot of texture going on there. Absolutely love it. It's not your traditional fan shaped, even though we can create a triangle, but there's a lot of negative space sold in here to create that. So it brings a lot of interest here. Absolutely love it. And one thing I told them today, I said, if you'll go bring me some thistle, because this is celestial, the thistle can look like a little starburst and reminds me maybe of a twinkling star if you want to go carry it that far. But absolutely love this color palette. And I would say this is one that I feel is pretty spot on. So what are your thoughts? Anybody seeing this color palette, whether it's the blues by itself or the purples by themselves? What are we seeing out there? Anyone care to share?
Well, we wait to see if anybody shares anything. For clarification, the trend is called Umbra, just so they can make sure they're grabbing the right PDF.
Umbra. Yes.
Celestial is one of the descriptors. Yeah. And yeah, they are seeing purple. I'm seeing, somebody said they're seeing purple.
Cool. Yep, absolutely love it. And like I said, the metallics, the black, gold, and silver incorporated with this gives it that shimmer. And with the right vessel or container, this would really have popped more than it already does.
Yeah, Daniel said it's really rich and the groupings are really wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely celebrating life.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And you, in talking about this, you heard me mention that with the thistle, I tucked it down in so it would bring the blue all the way through the composition. You want to keep that in mind when you're doing an arrangement. If you have purple or blue up here, there needs to be blue down here. That color needs to somehow bleed through the design. We don't want to put a color up here and just leave it all by its lonesome. It gets lonely. So we want to make sure that color bleeds through. Just like with this purple stock, we bleed into purple stock to the purple roses, to the purple mum, back over to the purple stock. So that purple bleeds all the way through that composition. And the same with the blue in the thistle. So hope you like.
Nathan's wondering, would white hypericum berries work with that?
Well, this is the thing. Someone shared with me early on in my career. Matter of fact, it was probably my second competition that I ever did. Think of white just like when you take a can of paint and you have a color that you want to dilute that color and make it lighter. They add white to that paint to dilute the color. The same thing when you take bold color and you add white to it, probably like this container's doing right now. You see white first. It's scientifically proven that our white reflects light. So our eyes will see white before it sees any other color. So when you're doing bold colors, personally, this is just me, it's not the gospel or the authority, I would probably stay away from white when I'm using such deep, rich colors, because your eye's gonna see it first and then the color last, and that dilutes your color palette. And I hope that makes sense to you.
Totally makes sense. Nancy's asking, and this, I know this gets kind of dicey and crazy, but she said, what would you price that wonderful piece?
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. You know, it's hard for me to say because I would have to count. To price in the retail shop, you count every stem. You have to be successful. And that's hard because early on in my career, for many years, I didn't. I at one time I would do that and I'm like, okay, a $75 arrangement, I kind of knew how many stems, but over time you get a little lax because we're creative people and we'll like, okay, I'm gonna put one more stem in here. Well, you put one more stem in everything that goes out your door that day, tally that up times 5, 6 days a week, it adds up. So I tell people when I'm doing a program, for this particular design, I would have to add it up. When I was creating this today, I was designing for pretty. So when you design for pretty, you just make it till it's pretty, almost as if you had an endless budget, which we never have. So it would be kind of hard to say. But if I had to guess, and don't hold me to this, but I know there's 2 bunches of delphinium in here, and there is probably 1 bunch of stock and the roses and lysianthus. I would dare say this is probably $400 or $500 if I had to guess. But I could be wrong. There again, don't hold me to it because I didn't add it up, okay? And while we're talking about that, I hope you guys are following some kind of formula with your pricing. And I hope that formula includes some percentage for labor. One thing that I find very fascinating when I do a show, I will ask, you know, how many people are charging for labor, and in an audience of 75 to 100, there'll be very few people that will raise their hand. And I don't know if that's because people are just don't want to participate in raising their hand, or they truly don't charge labor. And that concerns me because we work really hard in our industry. People say all the time, you get to play with flowers. Yes, we do, but it's still a very hard, taxing job. And so we want to make sure we're being profitable. So if you're not using some kind of formula that incorporates labor into that, please reach out to someone, do some research, and make sure you're doing so, okay? Any other comments?
We've got another question from Daniel. He said, what size is that container? Is it 10 inches? He wasn't quite sure.
It's not quite 10. It's a 9 and it's a 9.5. It's
Okay,
a 9.5. It's a 9.5 syndicate sales essentials urn.
Great,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, and the last The last trend that I'm going to speak on today is rejuvenate, which is water. And this is the one that did not surprise me at all, because being on the wholesale side and seeing the number of wedding orders that come through over the last year and a half, you know, there for a while, everything was all white. And we still do get a little bit of white. But this next color palette, Rejuvenate, we get almost every wedding has some variation of this color palette. Dawson from Dolores's is here helping me today, and we were talking about that prior to going live. Almost every wedding here lately has some variation of this. So it's going to be interesting to see where you guys are from and if that holds true in your area. Okay, so give me just a second and we'll load this up.
While you're bringing that out, Randy, we did have another question back to the urn. Nikema was wondering if you thought about spraying that urn gold or black or silver instead of the white.
Absolutely, that would definitely be an option. I did not think about that today. You know, crazy hustle bustle today. Lots going on and try to work all this in. But yes, just make sure that you get a good finish on it. Let it dry, and then maybe hit it again and let it dry. And you want to make sure it's really dry. Some of the paint holds really well, and some, as you're working with it, and especially with water and tape, that paint can come off. So you want to make sure you're very careful about that, but definitely an option for sure. Because I believe Design Master has some silver. They have some 14, 24 karat gold stuff that we've used for several years. Okay, on the Rejuvenate water, is the color palette ranges from burgundy to light blue to light pink to coral to yellow. And I will say almost every wedding order we have will definitely have some light blue in it, delphinium, light blue hydrangeas, and it will have some form of a peach, whether it's a pale peach or medium peach in it, and then you'll play off maybe some light pink. And I have seen a little bit of burgundy in there. Probably that's the least one that I've seen lately, but it is in some of them included. But definitely, and a little bit of pop of yellow, whether it is the chamomile, which you see here, brings a little pop of yellow to it. We see a lot of craspedia in this color palette. There's a lot of texture going on. There's a lot of color. And we're seeing this trend paired with tons and tons of different dress colors for bridesmaids. You know, my customers will share, I encourage them to share their pictures with me, because it's always interesting to see, because all I get to see these days is just a flower list. And you wonder, what are we doing with it? How they're going to pair this all together. So I found it very interesting to see all the different array of dress colors that we're seeing with this color palette. I am curious if someone wants to share with Janet, is this true and spot on in your area? Are you seeing a lot of this color palette, especially the light blue and the peach, being very dominant in your area?
I'm not sure about that yet, but Daniel says he can hear the Little Mermaid song Under the Sea while he's looking at you. It's gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This piece is created on a design tray. Dawson, if you look right there on that shelf up there and hand me that triple design brick tray there. I hope you guys have already discovered the brick trays from Smithers Oasis. If you haven't, oh my gosh, they've been around for several years now, probably 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer. But I absolutely love it. This is a triple brick tray. It holds 3 standard bricks. Okay, very inexpensive. You don't have to put a lot of money in the setup. Okay, they come in singles, doubles, and triples. These 2 here are doubles. Thank you, Dawson. These 2 are doubles, and we've just created this vegetative design. Vegetative means it's growing up and down just like it may grow in nature. like you would see this in a garden or under the sea in a coral reef, as the gentleman stated. This particular look and design can be used in so many different ways, okay? Not only in funeral work, but in wedding work. One thing that I did years ago, back in 2018, I did for my grandmother, Dolores, when she passed away. We did a series of these. They were triples at that time. I did 3 triples, and they sat on the floor in front of her casket. So when you walked in the room, she had a casket spray that was from end to end. And then on the floor, we had this, we called it Grandma's Garden. And so in our area, I had the privilege of doing that several times over the years for people. We're seeing a lot of this design right here following down an aisle. Somebody called them an aisle meadow. That's the word. I heard that a couple months ago, and I'm like, really, what is an aisle meadow? And when they sent me a picture, it was this. It was this, and sometimes they're continuous, and sometimes they're just spread out down the aisle. So if that's very trendy in a wedding setting, why couldn't we use it for a funeral and for a memorial service? I could see this on a table with an urn in the middle, or we could separate them just a little bit and put a big portrait, framed portrait in the 2 of them. You could even have this in the background and take a double tray or a 15-inch oasis or floor foam ring and decorate it in the same color palette to set the urn out in front of it. Okay. I want you to know that when it comes to sympathy work, we want to not only think outside of the box and do something different. We want people to talk. That's what's going to bring people to you. That's going to put your name out there. Just like I told you earlier, people would say, Randy, I know it's your work without even walking up to it or looking at the card. This is the kind of stuff here that will set you apart. And it all starts with you when you have that consultation with that family. Now, I know some of you in larger areas never meet with the family. You deal directly with the funeral home. The funeral home deals with the family. If that's the case, you need to get pictures of this. You need to supply your funeral home with pictures of your work, just like this, like that spray, and you need to put it in front of the family. So many times people will say, well, Randy, that will never sell in my area. And my response to that is the reason it won't is because your customer doesn't know it's an option, okay? So we have to put it out there. And this is a very affordable. Those brick trays are really, really cheap, folks. The setup is very minimum. We all know what the setup is on a wreath or an open heart form. Those are expensive. So this is a great way to stay on budget, offer them something unique and different, and create this beautiful tablescape for that memorial. Now, you can see with the design, I grouped my Safari Sunset Leucodendron in one area, and then I rotated my Delphinium. You can see I grouped my Gerber daisies together, and so forth and so on. Even down in the base, my roses are clustered together. I use the Aspidistra by folding and manipulating them to create more greenery, more texture. Absolutely love this. This is, and by the way, if you guys, I don't know, I'm going to pull one out and let Dawson take it up to the camera. These are from Esmeralda, and these are garden spray roses. Absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. Huge bunches, and they hold and last forever. Absolutely love them. We can't keep them in every week. We have a standing order, and they go like crazy. This particular one they call peach. There's one that's a coral. We have one that's a blush. It's blush pink in the middle, and the outer petals are creamy green. We have 2 different shades of yellow, a pale yellow, and then one that is a white with a creamy buttercup color in the center. Absolutely gorgeous, totally different, not your typical spray rose. So if you haven't seen them, check with your local wholesaler. They are from Esmeralda. Check them out, okay? Any questions on this particular one? Janet, did I lose you?
No, sorry. The only question Daniel just asked if you could zoom out again just a little bit.
Okay. There we go. Don't look at my buckets over there. We got about 1,100 buckets over here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is rejuvenate. This is the water element, which would be your burgundies, your light pinks, your corals, your light blues, and yellow. And I hope you like that.
Yep. And Lydia does want to know, how long did it take you to make the pair of those two?
No time at all. No time at all. Honestly, it goes really quick. I start with my line flowers and create this area here, and I graduate and work myself down. I put all my leucodendron in first, and then I did my delphinium second, and I have them lined on the table just like you see them here. And I do all of my leucodendron, all of my delphinium, and then I graduated down with my Gerber daisies, and then I based in the bottom.
Fantastic.
Not long at all.
All right, thank you.
So we're going to recap real quick. The embrace was the fire element, which was tangerine green, yellow with a contrast of blue. That was the standing spray we did. Whisper is the air element, which means lightness, which is your muted tones like ivory, blush, lavender, and pale yellow in that color palette. Umbra, space, celestial, was your purples and your deep blues with metallic elements, whether it's black, gold, or silver added to that. And then the rejuvenate, meaning water, and that is your burgundies, your light pink, your corals, your light blue delphinium, and yellow. And those are the four that I chose to concentrate on today. But in that resource pamphlet, you will see, like I said earlier, like this palette, this design incorporated all those colors in that palette. But there's also examples in there how you can pair some together or do monochromatic and still be within that rejuvenate trend. And I hope this helps you. And I hope you, when you're looking at sympathy work, you think about these trends and you think about how we can make our sympathy work different and not just our typical, well, I shouldn't say typical, maybe I should say outside of our expected color palettes. Everybody's expected to see these pinks and these soft pinks and the lavenders, and they're expected to see reds and sunflowers and that kind of thing. But think on these trends. It's another area. When you pay close attention to color and you set yourself apart from your competition in your area, that gets people talking, and that's what we want to do. So I hope that helps you. And we'll at this time open the floor up to questions if anybody has any.
We've got a comment and a question. Adrienne said she loves the color palette that you used for this last one for Rejuvenate. She also wants to know if you can show each of the arrangements again. I don't know if we
we can do that.
Would that work while we're getting some other questions?
Yeah, we can field questions as well, and we'll try to stand closer to that camera. The camera is an automatic zoom, so it follows me. So I'm going to move to where after I set one on the table, I'll move to try to where it will zoom back out for you. Okay. So we'll do one more time on the Rejuvenate.
Gorgeous.
If you'll stand right here.
It's just stunning, yeah.
Won't override me. And there again, I appreciate you guys' patience with us earlier and with this zooming. And now this is Embrace, and this is the fire element.
Gorgeous.
And I will say this to people ask me all the time. So I'm throwing it out there. If you're looking for ideas or inspiration, like I'm always looking for inspiration, send me a private message. Ask me. I've got about 15,000 photographs on my phone, and probably 90% of them, well, let's just say this, probably 70% of them are flowers, and the other 30% is my little girl, Nova Rain. I call her mine. She's my great niece. But so I said that to say this: if you're looking for some ideas or some inspiration, text me. I don't mind shooting you some pictures. I've got tons of sympathy work. Okay. All right. This one is Umbra, which is space and celestial, and that is your deep blues and purples with the gold and the black and silver.
So nice and rich. We do have a couple of questions too while you're doing that.
Okay.
Oh, they want Alistair wants to know if they can see the back of the arrangements.
Sure, they're not finished. Now on the, I'll bring one of the trays up. I purposely left it unfinished, so I wanted you to see the tray. Right there. Now, in this particular urn, I will tell you, we have the, I don't remember if it's Mega Block, or what the exact name is. I'll have to look, and if you're interested, I'll be glad, message me and I'll be glad to tell you. It's over there out of sight. I can't see it, but it's an oversized block, and it fits perfect. One of those fits perfect in this without any carving, without any adjustment, and it's tight. And that saves time on setup and as well as product as well. And then I shaved it down on the top so it's not so square. But those blocks fit perfect in this urn. And this is that 9.5-inch urn. And I'll show you the back of that.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Lydia asked if you will be publishing the recipes for the items because she said they're also gorgeous. I don't know if you had recipes per se that.
I could take the time to jot it down. Absolutely, it's not a problem.
Lists of what you put in, maybe even.
Sure. I can do that this afternoon and get it to you, and you can send it out. However.
And then Nancy asked how many dozen roses did you use in fire, and what that color was.
That particular rose is called Tortola, Torottola, Tortola, and it is classified as a peach rose from the grower, but it is truly a tangerine and orange to me. To me, there's nothing peach about it. We will bring this up to where you can see that color. Now, as a wholesaler and even as a retailer, one thing that I do is when I find a variety and bring it in, I'm looking for performance, how well this particular flower performs. And it's normally typically a larger size head, okay? And it stays really firm, it's really hard, and it lasts longer. It's not one of those that blows quickly and turns soft. This one holds really well. And when I found it, this is my go-to for orange. And then we also carry Free Spirit, of course. And then we have a beautiful peach rose that's called Phoenix. And it's classified as a garden rose, but it's not at a garden rose price. If you're familiar with the heart rose, that's red, deep red. The Phoenix is a beautiful peach, but it has the petaling shape just like the heart rose. It's a beautiful rose as well. I didn't use any of those because they all went out the door yesterday. But here, we talked earlier about this, just recapping how we have these beautiful containers and we didn't cover them up, and you see the container, please
Yeah.
be mindful of that, okay?
Gorgeous.
And this one is finished on the back.
Beautiful.
Yeah. All right, that's got them all back up here.
All right. Well, it looks like we are out of questions. Thanks, Randy. That was fantastic. I loved great interpretations on that. Reminder one more time. There are 5 PDFs for each of the 5. Randy talked about 4. We had time for 4. He didn't have time for the 5th one, which was ambition. But that PDF is also in there, as well as in the chat is the link to the website where you can look at the booklet and get a lot more information, which is AmericanFloralTrends.com. Thanks everybody for joining us today. This was great. This was recorded, so this recording will be available on demand on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel. And then for more education programming from FTD, please visit ftdi.com to register for those upcoming free webinars and design shows and to view the past education programs on demand. Thanks, everyone.
Janet, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you for putting some value on education. Thank you, Janet, and always to FTD for supporting education and bringing this type of resource to our industry. Always thankful. And if any way I can be of help to anyone, just look me up on social media and send me a message. I'll be glad to help you. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.